Today we are going to stay in a castle for a few nights. I still cannot believe that I'm saying that.
I cannot tell you how glorious this place is. It feels like I've stepped back in time.
Like so many, I've spent my life drawn to castles, the hidden passageways, ancient herb gardens, and cloisters which are somehow still breathing. Okay, this is excellent. The journey upwards was one of biting cold, and I was faintly aware of the train journeys I had already taken in books, with the Pevensey siblings, and through the desolate fields and the wolves of Willoughby Chase. When you read enough, it becomes impossible to not think of your own every move as part of some far greater story. I pretended I was Faith in the Lie Tree, travelling to a home she did not yet know, or Mrs. De Winter and Mary Lennox travelling to the same. So many books begin with a journey. Indeed, John Gardner says that there are only two types of stories, one where someone arrives and one where someone leaves. It felt so much like a story that I started constructing my own character, Ottilie Featherstone, and there were instances that I did pretend to be this character over the course of the trip. I've spoken about this before, but especially if you like storytelling, if you like writing, there is something so fun about constructing a character and then pretending you are that character. And so just for 30 seconds, I'm going to invite you to this world of pretending that I like to do with characters sometimes. Ottilie arrived on the cusp of an afternoon, at a time where people are not sure whether to say good evening or good afternoon, where they move between the two like indecisive weather vanes. The castle was larger than any she had seen before. There was an empty flagpole stretching up from the battlements, and, in the windows, she could see bookcases and globes on the top floor. A library, she hoped. The archway loomed, ancient stone watching her every move as she crossed the threshold alone. She paused in the courtyard to look at the walls around her, which seeped with something other than ivy, something ancient and dark, so poignant she could almost taste it. She had rather expected someone to meet her, but alas, it was empty, but for the wuthering wind. Then, movement. A flicker at an upper window. Ottilie's breath caught as she looked up, a planetary face between the mullions which hovered for only a second before vanishing. But yes, with that very important introduction done, this is Thornbury Castle, just outside of Bristol, and it is the only Tudor castle in the UK which is also a hotel. So you literally get to stay in a real castle. This is my reaction to my room as well. I was actually in awe. This castle was owned by Edward Stafford, who was King Henry VIII's cousin, and King Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn actually stayed here for 10 days in 1535 to escape the plague in London. The story of its construction is also so interesting. So Edward Stafford, aside from being Henry VIII's cousin, was the second wealthiest man in England. And so when he built this castle, it was kind of as a testament to his own prestige and wealth. Because just as the castle was being finished, he was put on trial in London, and he was ultimately beheaded after being found guilty of treason.
I've arrived at Thornbury Castle, and it has surpassed the wildest, highest expectations I had of this place. I cannot tell you how glorious this place is. It feels like I've stepped back in time, and it feels, I would say, like a movie set, but it doesn't feel like a movie set. It feels like the setting of a book. It feels like I'm a book character, and it feels like I've stepped into The Secret Garden or The Chronicles of Narnia or Rebecca. Like, it doesn't feel real. It feels like something fictitious that I'm imagining as I'm reading. Like, there's a magic which is seeping through this place. I can just about feel it right now as I'm looking out over the church. This is what I'm looking out at. And there are just these absolutely gorgeous high ceilings. It just does not feel real. I've got a mug of Earl Grey tea, and they've given me some soy milk in the mini fridge, which is very nice of them. This Earl Grey tea was very much needed after the long journey. I'm just really trying to process the fact that I'm here. On the booking notes, when I was booking, it said, like, is there anything you want us to be aware of, or do you want to make any special requests and things? And so I wrote down, of course, that I was vegan. I'd always write that, but I also couldn't see on the website whether there was a kettle in the rooms. Like, it's very unusual for there not to be a kettle in a UK hotel room. Like, there will always be a kettle, but because it wasn't listed on the hotel rooms and I couldn't see it in the photographs, I started to get nervous that there wouldn't be a kettle and that I wouldn't be able to have tea. And so I wrote in the notes on my booking, please, if possible, can there be a kettle in my room if that isn't already? And there are kettles in all of the rooms, but retrospectively, I find it quite amusing that I put that down on my booking. Okay, I've made a little plan and now I'm going to go out and explore, and I genuinely cannot wait. I'm so excited to have a look around, especially outside.
Exploring a castle has, of course, always been on my bucket list. I love going to National Trust properties and visiting castles, but here you kind of have free reign of the place to explore and look around, and I got slightly distracted in the library because they had loads of lovely books. As I was walking around the walled gardens, these ancient herb gardens where plants have grown year on year for 500 years, I could feel the history and I could feel the stories that have been made here. There were just so many crevices and tiny little nooks, and I just loved that you can pass so many places and you know that there are stories there, but you don't know what those stories are, and there's something elusive and taunting in the lack of knowledge, but also something really beautiful. Heavy droplets tore through the mist and settled between the battlements, and Mrs. Hargreaves, the housekeeper, was quite insistent that Ottilie not go out in the rain. Ottilie craved the fresh air, the snowdrops below the archways, and the catkins budding freshly in their peduncles underneath the willows, but she was happy enough to venture into the library. The insides were musty, vanilla and wood seeping out from the laddered bookcases, and ancient leather peeking out from the shelves, watching her, waiting to be read. Ottilie ran her fingers across their pale, fading spines, the gilded letters glistening in the dim daylight. She looked through maps of the places she longed to visit, places far beyond the stifling insides of this castle. But she put the atlas to one side when she noticed a peculiar red volume, a volume which seemed to sing to her, a slow, sad siren song which echoed through the silent library. She flicked through its bookwormed pages and found a letter. A letter with her name on it. How could that be? The paper pulsed in time with her heartbeat, and she opened it and read. You can travel to any corner of the world, dear soul, but with one simple charm. With NordVPN, you may change your virtual realm to anywhere upon this earth, and see websites and films not found in the land where you live.
What's a website? Now, Ottilie might not know what a website is, but hopefully you do because you're watching this video on YouTube and YouTube is a website, and NordVPN does indeed let you change your virtual location to anywhere in the world. So you have this map and then you can click anywhere in the world on this map and it will change your virtual location to that place. So for example, I can click and say that I'm in Canada and then it will show me things that you would find on a Canadian search engine. And I love using a VPN when I travel, especially abroad, because you can change your search engine so that it's operating as if you were still in the UK. Also, changing your VPN is a way to keep your data more secure, so when you change it to somewhere other than your current location, it can prevent hackers from accessing your information, which is crucial when you're using a public Wi-Fi network like when you're at a hotel. NordVPN is incredibly easy to use, literally just a few clicks on this map. So if you want to try NordVPN, then you can get an extra 4 months free on the 2-year plan if you use my link, which will be in the description box. Now, as I say, Ottilie unfortunately cannot use NordVPN because I've made her exist in 1891, where websites and computers and VPNs are definitely not a thing, but they do exist now. So if you are interested, do click on the link in the description. And now we will go back to Thornbury Castle, where I sat downstairs in the living room to write for a little bit. I thought I would show you the books that I brought with me. Of course, I can't go away without bringing a whole load of books. I never know on what my mood's going to be, and so it's good to have options. The one I'm so excited to be reading at the moment is Vicious, and I was reading this on the train as well. Oh, actually, the lighting's quite bad here. I still think that's slightly better. I've brought Vicious by V.E. Schwab, and I'm loving this so far. I'm only about 30 pages in. I didn't end up reading that much on the train. I did loads of journaling instead, and it's so good. I don't know much yet, but it looks like there's a competitive friendship between two high-achieving boys at university, and they both study science, and it's flipping between that and some grave robbers, and I really don't know what's happening yet, so I can't really tell you, but I really love the writing. Then I brought Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier to reread because I'm staying in a castle, and the whole kind of feel of this trip is very much reminding me of Manderley, and I haven't read this since I was maybe like 13, and so I'm very much in need of a reread. Then because apparently this castle is haunted, I thought I would bring a ghost story, which is The Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. Then I've got A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing, which has been on my TBR for a while, and I took it out of the library a while back, and I do actually want to get around to reading this. I don't know if I will read this one while I'm here though, because the other one's more thematic. Then I've got selected poems of Robert Bridges, in case I'm in the mood for poetry, and I've brought Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets because I'm staying in a castle. Oh yes, I put this in my bag. I completely forgot I brought this for a sec. I also brought my miniature Hamlet, because of course Hamlet is also set in a castle and there are ghosts. I got this one from Shakespeare's house when I visited with Holly in the summer, and yeah, it's so small that I just thought I would bring it. It's just so beautiful. It's actually unusually warm today as well. Like, I'm in this dress and I'm not cold.
So many secrets, again, lying hidden within this room. I wonder what happened here. I wonder what conversations occurred here. I wonder who passed through these walls. One of my favourite things to do was just wander around and look and see what I found. I loved picking through the books on the shelves. I found this lovely volume filled with paintings, which I decided to look through for a little bit. It was mostly all beautifully curated, but these little medieval core paintings really did make me laugh a little bit because they are very inauthentic.
I'm not so sure about these. I've just spent about 2 hours writing and I've managed to rewrite 2 chapters of my book, like the first 2 chapters, which my plan for today is to rewrite the first 3. I'm now going to go on a walk because I would quite like to get some fresh air, and I might walk down to Thornbury town centre just to have a look around and explore. It's pouring with rain and I absolutely love this. It's raining and I'm at a castle. Like, I don't think it gets better. It's not raining too much actually. I say pouring, it's more like it's just raining. I am going to go to Thornbury. I think I might get an umbrella as well because they have umbrellas here, which is very, very useful. Okay, this afternoon I desperately want to explore this area here. I think they're like ruins. I'm not sure, but it looks very, very cool. It is surprisingly warm. Oh gosh, it's a very uneven table. I think I'm going to sit outside and read for a little bit. I have booked in for a vegan afternoon tea this afternoon, which I'm so excited about. So yeah, I'm going to sit and read. I've got like an hour and a half until that, and I might try and do some more writing before then too. I also just love that it's raining. Okay, this is excellent, but if you are squeamish, beware, because I'm actually getting lightheaded reading this. It's so intense, and it's funny because the character, like Victor, is studying adrenaline, and oh my gosh, even thinking about it, Victor is studying adrenaline and as part of his thesis, and the adrenaline which this book gets going is just something else. Honestly, I'm so on edge. That last chapter, I'm actually going to stop there because that was so much. Wow. Beware, at about like 60 pages, it gets very, very intense. I sat in the living room for an afternoon tea, and the fire was crackling and the ceilings were high and it was raining outside, and I ordered a milk oolong tea. I haven't had milk oolong for ages. I let it breathe for a little too
this is the selection of cakes, and it was just so wonderful. So I've wanted to do an afternoon tea by myself for about 6 years. I went for an afternoon tea half a decade ago, and I saw this lady having an afternoon tea by herself, and I just thought that is so cool to like feel comfortable enough to do that, because having meals alone can be quite intimidating, quite daunting, but having afternoon tea by yourself, which is inherently a very social thing, just always felt like too much. So this actually felt like a massive bucket list thing to do, and I felt very comfortable having an afternoon tea by myself. Straight after tea, I went up to my room and just wrote for a couple of hours, but I didn't film any of that.
I know I was going to go outside, but I then just got distracted writing, and really the whole point of this trip was to write, so I wasn't going to go outside and disturb that. I managed to finish the 3rd chapter. I consider that a successful writing day. I think I might actually go outside now, because I love this time of day. It's like it's still a little bit light. It's like just past dusk, and I bet it will be really beautiful outside, so I'm gonna go.
I feel very safe, but I also don't know if I should be wandering around a walled garden at night, but it just looks so romantic. This door. This fountain as well, I absolutely love. This here. And I keep on spotting, so like there are these windows here, and I can see a globe, like a vintage globe behind it, and I'm wondering if this is a room that I can go into, or if it's a guest room. I've been trying to work it out, but I might go explore. I think, oh, there's a door here. I wonder where this one leads. That rather reminds me of Coraline being bricked up. So I went down to the library after doing some exploring. I didn't want to film there because people were having dinner in the library, which is such a cool place to eat as well. And I didn't bring my commonplace book, which is really annoying. I just brought this mini one. And I looked in the dictionary and I just wanted to find 3 words that I didn't know. And so I wrote these down in here. And I'm going to tell you which words. So cassoulet, which is a perforated perfume box which can diffuse scent, and I've seen these before but I didn't know what they were called, so I also love the word cassoulet. Then this is my favourite one, which is catalepsy or cataleptic, and it's where you go into a trance and you lose awareness of your senses. And then finally a cockle stove. I was just talking with Blakeney the other day about like where does the phrase warm your cockles come from, and a cockle stove is a certain type of like
heater. So the idea is that you've got a furnace and then it's in an enclosed space, and the furnace heats up the air in this small space, and then when it's hot enough you open it up and let it into the room.
That evening, the wind wavered and sighed against the stone walls of the castle, threading its way through unseen gaps, rattling at the leaded windows. Ottilie sat upright in the great canopied bed of her chamber. She told herself she was not afraid, and yet, her fingers curled tightly around the edges of her coverlet, her ears straining beyond the wind for any sound inside the room, any shift, any rustle. When she heard the pigeons in the chimney, she pulled the hanging curtains closed around her head, breath fast and head light. It was foolish, she knew, superstitious nonsense. She had been told so that afternoon. "You will do well to be sensible, Miss Ottilie," Mrs. Hargreaves had said. "A young lady must learn to distinguish between curiosity and recklessness." Now, alone in her chamber, Ottilie resented the warning. Sensible. She had heard it all her life, in one form or another. It was what was expected of young women of her station, to be poised, to be obedient, to be patient, to stay inside. Again she heard the wind, a gust so strong that the ivy shook and unborn catkins rocked uncomfortably in their temporary beds. Even the yew tree quivered. There was something strange happening in the castle. Of that she was certain, and she refused to let its stories pass her by. She would peel back its secrets from the stonework, and chip away the mortar until she found the stories beneath. Stories are there to be heard, after all.
Oh my gosh, I genuinely feel like I'm in the book at the moment. This whole story thing is so much fun. Next time you go away, especially if you're going on a solo trip, come up with a backstory of your character and then play along to it, because it's such a fun way to romanticize your life. Not that this would otherwise be difficult to romanticize.
Morning arrived in a hush, and wood pigeons cooed softly from Ottilie's chimney. The castle's stories, which had felt sinister the night before, now welcomed her under a sky the colour of old paper. Ottilie dressed and made her way downstairs alone, her footsteps light against the grand staircase, swallowed by the vastness of the corridors. The breakfast room was otherwise empty, and dark tables stretched before her, already set with white tablecloths, carefully twisted napkins, and miniature pots of marmalade. The house ran with quiet precision, its steps in time with the incessant ticking from the clock above the mantel. And her breakfast was served before she could make a request. Pears and peaches, chopped into pieces the sizes of peas, a silver rack of toast, and a steaming cup of Earl Grey tea. She opened her book, taken hastily from her travelling case, but she found herself rereading the same sentence on repeat. Her attention was untethered, distracted by the stories beyond those pale pages. The breakfast room was lined with paintings, darkened by age, their gilded frames heavy with dust. Austere men in high collars, women frozen in silk and lace, they blurred into an uncanny, watchful presence, until her gaze landed on one. Her breath stilled. There, just above a narrowly crossed window, the face she had seen in the window.
Good morning. I've had breakfast. It's very windy today, but I've still got the window wide open. There's something invigorating about it. Like a window looking out onto a church and a courtyard. It feels like it has to be open. Breakfast was lovely. I had an oat cappuccino and then avocado toast and a pear, which was lovely. That's not on their menu, but I was really craving pear and I asked if they had a pear and they did have a pear. And I think I'm gonna go have another explore. I haven't gone outside to explore the old dungeons yet. I think it's dungeons, but there are all of these ruins out the front. I showed it yesterday when I was going my walk and I still haven't had a look, so I'm gonna go. I've also been reading Rebecca this morning and last night. I'm about like 75 pages in. They've just arrived at Manderley, and oh my gosh, I forgot how wonderful this book is. I'm so glad I'm rereading it. I've kind of put Vicious on the back burner, which I'm loving, but I feel like I won't be able to put down Rebecca now until I finish it. I can never resist a cup of tea.
If only there could be an invention that bottled up a memory, like scent, and it never faded, and it never got stale, and then, when one wanted it, the bottle could be uncorked, and it would be like living the moment all over again. I looked up at him to see what he would say. He did not turn to me, but he went on watching the road ahead. "What particular moments in your young life do you wish uncorked?" he said. I could not tell from his voice whether he was teasing me or not. "I'm not sure," I began, and then blundered on, rather foolishly, not thinking of my words. "I'd like to keep this moment, never forget it." The castle was vast, and there were hidden doors in every room Ottilie found. Doors inside cupboards, behind curtains, wooden entryways the size of her palm hidden within the panelling. Mrs. Hargreaves had made it very clear that Ottilie was not to go exploring, but how could she not? After all, nothing tempts discovering more than the mere mention of a secret. She had just made her way into a particularly ornate room guarded by several dashing suits of armour when she heard Mrs. Hargreaves' signature footsteps. She looked for somewhere to hide. A door, this time hidden between sheets of gauze curtain, which opened wide into an echoey spiral staircase. Ottilie hesitated only a moment. The sconces along the walls flickered faintly, making shadows on the carved wainscoting, helping the tapestries dance, and burst at last into cold February air. The ruined wing of the castle loomed ahead, crumbling stone open to the sky. The broken walls reached into the sky like twisted fingers, and weeds crawled up the sides of the stone, watching her carefully. The great stone arches became ghosts themselves, shadows of what had been. Just as she turned, ready to step deeper into the ruins, a shadow appeared. A shadow she recognised. The ghost.
Okay, I'm outside by the old castle ruins, which are right here, and it's so haunting. So there are all of these archways, like so, and then when you step over the parapet, this is what you see. I believe that these used to be dungeons, and that down here is where the dungeons were. There's something very spooky about it though. Okay, there's another doorway here. But it's almost like the wind is warning you not to go. Okay, I'm getting spooked out. I'm gonna go. Her warning. Don't go further. Don't go further. These are phantoms not meant for your eyes. It feels like you should be allowed in here, but then there's this, which makes me think you're not. I've just had lunch and I think now I'm going to venture across to look inside that church. It's been beckoning me for the whole of this trip and I haven't gone inside yet. I always love visiting local churches because it kind of acts as the locus of a community's history and like it's often the oldest building as well in the vicinity, so wherever I go I will always go to the church. Oh, I'm also like 100 pages into Rebecca. It's one of the best books ever written. If you haven't read it yet, I envy you. I truly envy you because it's just one of those books that you will never forget. I cannot get over how beautiful everything is, and the snowdrops. Look, a little river of snowdrops.
Okay, so I did not realise just how old this church is. It's actually from the 12th century, and the first case of this being used as a site of Christian worship is 1170. I love these windows at the top with the green. I've never seen ones quite like that before. I still just can't get over how magical this place is. Like, it doesn't look real. I also don't know why more people aren't walking around the grounds and the walled garden. I mean, I get that it's February, but it's unseasonably warm. I'm surprised by how warm it is right now. And it makes me feel there's a particular book that the walled garden's really reminding me of. Ophelia Swam by Kelly Swain. I read it last summer. It's set just outside of Oxford in Godstow, and it's about a nun based on Lady Grace Mildmay, who was a herbalist in the Tudor period, and she takes in this girl Ophelia who almost drowned, based of course on Hamlet's Ophelia, and she like learns how to become a herbalist, and it all takes part within this convent. And this, I mean, obviously it's not a convent, but it kind of feels like a convent. I think one of the strangest and most wonderful things about being a reader is when you visit somewhere new, it can feel very familiar because you've read about something similar, or it just like reminds you of something you've read about, and so it feels in many ways like I've been here before, even though I haven't, because I've read a book which really reminds me of this place. So I'm getting a lot of deja vu as I'm walking around, in the best possible way. Yes, I'm just gonna have a wander. I'm just walking in circles around the garden. It's nice to move as well because I didn't end up going on a walk today. Just as I was walking, that turned on behind you. It's so pretty. I want to sit and read by this, but I'm actually too cold to, I think, sit still, so I'll go inside.
gosh, the wind outside. I'm now gonna have a shower and wash my hair because it really needs a wash. I'm going to read some more of Rebecca. I kind of want to rewatch a little bit of The Secret Garden even though I finished it last night. I'm such a serial rewatcher. Like, I just love rewatching my favourite films.
You can change after you've eaten. There are new clothes in the wardrobe.
It's my last morning and I'm so sad to be leaving. I've got about 3 hours until I check out and I very much intend to make the most of it. Okay, I'm actually going to go check out, very reluctantly. I've got little thank you notes, lots for reception. I always like to write a thank you, and that's why I keep little envelopes like this on me, so that I can easily say thank you to somebody if they have helped me with something. Bye bye. I'm so sad. I've got my case. I'm laden down with bags. Packing up, the nagging worry of departure, lost keys, unwritten labels, tissue paper lying on the floor. I hate it all, even now when I have done it so much of it, when I live, as the saying goes, in my boxes. Even today, when shutting drawers and flinging wide a hotel wardrobe, or the impersonal shelves of a furnished villa, is a methodical matter of routine, I am aware of sadness, of a sense of loss. Here, I say, we have lived, we have been happy. This has been ours, however brief the time. Though 2 nights only have been spent beneath the roof, yet we leave something of ourselves behind. Nothing material, not a hairpin on a dressing table, not an empty bowl of aspirin tablets, not a handkerchief beneath the pillow, but something indefinable. A moment of our lives, a thought, a mood.